being not only okay, I see what he's saying. It's a totally normal sentence.
Have you ever read before? You're really struggling today.
Welcome back, citizens of De Niro Nation, to Our Hero De Niro, the only podcast that is watching and recapping Robert De Niro's entire filmography in random order. I'm Mike, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Mike.
No relation.
And today we're taking a break from format because it is such a very special week for this podcast. It is my friend, my co-hosts, I guess those are basically your only roles in my life, Mikethefab's birthday. Happy birthday, Mike.
Hey, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. I love my birthday, and there's no better way I'd like to celebrate than to be here with you today, recapping and discussing one of my favorite films of all time. Hopefully, fingers crossed, now one of your favorite films of all time, but that feels like it's probably too much to hope for. The 2008 Hayao Miyazaki film, Ponyo, on the Cliff by the Sea. But I think we just call it Ponyo in the U.S.
Yeah, we streamlined it social network style, Yeah, so
yeah.
I want to get into Ponyo in a minute. First of all, just how, so you like your birthday? You still like your birthday? How old are you turning? Tell us a bit about what's going on here.
I think that's great. I love this discussion. Yeah, so I'm turning 38, and I don't like my birthday as much as I used to. Mm-hmm. I certainly don't dislike it, but I don't know. It's kind of funny. I feel like something that I feel as I get older, and I'm sure you feel this way as well, is like all the things that you see older people, like the kind of grooves and habits that you see older people falling into, that you're like, oh, I'm never going to feel like that. Like it's like the foolishness of youth, like thinking that you're going to escape this gravitational pull that like pulls every older person in. And that was an opinion I had, was in my 20s. Like I would like talk to friends of mine and they're like late 30s, like into their 40s, and they didn't give a shit about their birthday. And I was like, well, that's not going to be me. I'm always going to care about my birthday. But like, no, you just do start caring about it less, after you have a bunch of them. You feel the same way? You care about your birthday less as you're getting older?
Yeah, I think I've never been as big of a birthday guy as you have been. I just haven't been that into my birthday the last few years. It's in September, and it's so close to when the academic year starts that last year I just was so panicked and anxious about starting grad school that I really wanted nothing to do with my birthday. So
I remember.
I don't know. Maybe when I get to 40. I'll do some big. I should go somewhere and do something next year since I'll be out of grad school. Maybe we can do a little Our Hero De Niro remote record from somewhere.
I think that's such a good idea. I would love to do that.
Get the ambient sounds of the beach, Sure.
The ambient sounds of some country music playing at the Irish bar.
Oh, yeah. I love authentic, very authentic Irish. So we're here for your birthday, and listeners, citizens of De Niro Nation will know that on our birthdays, we decided to create a rule where we could pick any movie we want to recap. I chose The Matrix. You chose Ponyo. Why this film?
Oh, man. Okay, so here's a little bit of information about me in this film. So I saw this film, I wish I could remember exactly when, but it had to be pretty damn close to the day that it came out in theaters in the U.S., the year that it came out. The release date was August 14th, 2009, and I know I saw it in August. So I saw this pretty close to the day that it came out. I remember because it was before college started, and the term, I think, when we were in college started in late August.
Yep.
So I was not yet in the fall term of college that year when I went and saw this film. And, I really liked it when I first saw it, but there was a lot about it that I think that I didn't understand, both because it is a very strangely dense and I think like slightly postmodern absurdist narrative in the way that it's presented. And also because it's one of those films that I think both benefits from rewatch and also has something for every generation and every stage of life that you could possibly be in while you're seeing it. And so as I've continued to watch this film, I think I've probably seen it between 25 and 30 times at this point. As I've continued to watch this film over the past 16 years since I saw it in theaters when it first released, it's kind of meant different things to me, which has kind of been a cool experience for me to have with a movie that I really love over the course of my adult life. And also now, and we'll have a little bit from her later in the episode, since my daughter was born a few years ago, it's a film that she has really fallen in love with, and so she wants to watch it all the time. I think I've logged it 8 times on Letterboxd so far this year. Just watching it with her. So like a third of my watches have been in the past 12 months. And so now I have this entire new dimension through which I experience this film, which is both as a father, and spoiler alert, I think that you could get really tied up in the kind of small children and fish of it all. But this really is a film about fatherhood and fathers, and some of the pitfalls of being a dad. And so I definitely appreciate it more from that vantage point now that I am myself a father. But it's also really special getting to see it through Nora's eyes, which is really cool. And so I'm really loving this movie this year, but it's always been in my Letterboxd top 4. So it's not like I've only started. It's not like I've only started really loving it in the past year.
Yeah, I'd never seen it before. We did this before you made me do it for this podcast. So, thank you for filling in that little cinematic blind spot for me. I actually had the pleasure of watching it with you, friend and wife of the pod, Caroline, and your daughter, Nora. So that was a lovely time, and I made sure to not say a damn thing about it. So you have no idea what my reaction to the film was, and I'm very excited to get into it with you later. In fact, I'm excited for this entire episode because I'm about to hand it over to you for the recap and discussion. I'm excited for our final ratings and discussion of the film, and we actually also have a few letters from the citizens of De Niro Nation, so please stick around. But before all that, there is one thing that we have to do. Now, you and Caroline so kindly gave me a Seder square from Tenet for my birthday, and I just thought, I have to get you something, right? So I want to give you a little gift. And now you're 38 years old. You're entering middle age. You're getting close to it. You're nearing up to it. And I just thought, what does an older, sophisticated man like? And I thought literature, right? Like the classics, like just a very yes. Yep. So I thought about it. I didn't want to do something, really rote, really just predictable, right?
Well, it's such a milestone year, 38,
right.
Right.
So I thought
you want to make sure you do it right.
Exactly. So I went out there, I searched long and hard, and I found something that I think you'll
I heard the first few words of the sentence I thought you were going to say after that whole preamble. So I went out there and I searched good gift for a 38-year-old man on Google.
No, I paid attention to your interests, the things that you like, that you care about, that are important to you. And so I'm gonna put this up on screen for you. Mike, I got you Tenet, the complete screenplay by Christopher Nolan.
That's an incredible gift. I love that. That looks amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I am going to treasure that.
I'm really excited about it.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to read it.
Put that on the bookshelf. Tenet. People are going to ask what that one is.
You know what I'm actually going to do? I'm going to put it on my desk at work next to the Seder Square.
Oh, man.
Still no
beautiful.
one has ever asked me about the Seder Square.
They've never asked what's
no
the
one
big
has ever said
cube
anything.
on your desk.
I put that on my desk in September, the day that we gave you yours. So that was 2 months ago. Dozens of people have come into my office since I put it on, and no one has ever asked about it. I do think that if I put the Tenet screenplay next to it, maybe that might be a little bit more of a conversation starter. I'm pretty excited. Yep.
Yeah, you're starting to build a bit of a Tenet shrine in your office. I think that's nice.
Yes,
people who are upset about return to office mandates and things like that, they should just think, how can I construct a mini shrine to my favorite film? Yeah, on my desk.
I completely agree. I mean, so much of, my enjoyment, and my company does not have a return to office mandate. I just like to go into the office.
Sure.
But so much of what I've done that has made going into the office more pleasant for me has been trying to make my office space at work more like my office space at home.
Absolutely.
Getting like a really nice keyboard and mouse, a really nice computer monitor that's very similar in functionality to my home monitor. To your point, putting up a lot of art in my office that I like. So I'm kind of looking at some pictures, some stuff around me that I like. So really excited to add that to my ambiance.
I'm glad you liked it. I'm excited to give it to you in person whenever we see each other next. But with that, I think I should hand it over to you for the remainder of this until we get back to the letters. So please, let's get into your recap of Ponyo and whatever the other words were after the title.
So just a little bit about this film before we start. So this was Hayao Miyazaki, I think really primarily of Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke fame. This was his 10th film overall and his 8th film for Studio Ghibli. Nausicaa, I think he made before Studio Ghibli was incorporated, and there was one other film that I can't remember. This film was a huge box office success. It had a $34 million budget and a $206 million worldwide box office. And it's a real critical darling. People loved this film when it first came out, and notably, this was kind of the culmination of, I think, John Lasseter and Hayao Miyazaki's friendship over the preceding couple of decades. Was Lasseter really committing to bringing this film to the West and to localizing it in a way that was very faithful to the original. Hayao Miyazaki had a lot of issues with previous localization of his work, especially of Nausicaa, which was brought to the U.S. under a different title, with a lot of scenes cut and a lot of the dialogue changed in a way that he just found really alienating. And so this is an incredibly faithful localization of this film. I actually sat down this morning before work and watched the Japanese edit just to make sure I could note what divergences there were. There are very few, and I think I understand them where they are. The big distinction between this film's English dub and its original Japanese script is the really horrible like Frankie Jonas song that plays at the end. We danced to it with Nora at the end. Of course, I mean she's 3, so she loves the song. That song was not in the original Japanese edit, and people hated that. Like the purists really did not like that.
Yeah, so I will say we did watch the English dub for this watch, and I will have comments about that later on.
I'm trying to think about how I want to talk about anything else about this. So like just a little bit about like where Miyazaki was in his life when this film was made, right? So if you're not familiar with this filmmaker, this film is very similar, I think, in theme to a lot of other films that he'd made, but it's very different in tone. It has a much more lighthearted, much more childlike and whimsical kind of tone to it.
Whimsical, yes.
Especially something like Princess Mononoke, which is a pretty dark, adult-oriented film, and even something like Spirited Away that's definitely more for kids, but there's some pretty fucked up shit in Spirited Away. There are some slightly disturbing imagery in this film, and it does depict the apocalypse, but the way the apocalypse is kind of depicted is through the eyes of the child main characters. And so it's not really spotlighted, right? The apocalypse is not the focus. It's just kind of happening in the background.
Yeah. And I think we would have been fine in New York.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, well, maybe.
Well, Western New York.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Whatever. Anyway, so he was in his mid to late 60s, when he would have been writing and producing this film. And I think that my sense is, based on, my understanding of his life and my read of this film, that he was really reflecting on his own failures as a father. He was famously a pretty terrible father to his 2 sons, especially Goro, who tried to follow his dad into the family business of making animated films, but was never able to make anything nearly as good as his father made. And, his dad was famously, I think, pretty openly disappointed with his son's creative contribution to their kind of shared project of this film studio that he founded. So Goro said, I read this quote earlier today when I was doing a little bit of preparation for this, that he gives his father 0 marks as a dad, but full marks as a movie maker. So
wow.
A guy who really put essentially none of his effort into being a father and all of his effort into his creative output during his son's life. Yeah. Not the priorities I would have, but I mean, this really is kind of a rumination, I think, on the importance of relationships and the duties of fathers and mothers and the ways that fathers let their children down. And so we got this nice piece of creative work out of it. Before we get into the film, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so. I'll save it for the discussion and the final rating. I don't think we need a preamble. That sounds
great. Listen, I saw you take a lot of notes during the movie, so I know you're going to have things that you want to say. So I am going to do a relatively paint by numbers recap here because I have a lot that I want to say in discussion after the recap. Okay. So just cut in whenever you have stuff that you'd like to add.
That's how it's always worked.
Yep. So this film opens cold, and it opens with a pretty breathtaking sequence. This is a famous Japanese anime sequence. If listeners are not familiar, I believe the first 12 seconds of this film required like 1,700 concept illustrations or something for them to block out. And so the film opens with this really, it's truly very grand in scope and scale when you really think about it. Just depiction of the undersea world that these characters live in. And so you see a lot of different fish. You see like a few of the main characters, and you see one of the two father characters in the film, Fujimoto, who's Ponyo's father. He is like an underwater wizard, doing his magic. And the first song in the score plays. I'm not going to talk too much about individual tracks in the score, but this is probably my favorite film score of all time. Hayao Miyazaki works usually with the same composer. There have been a few films that he's done where he's worked with somebody different. This composer's name is Joe Hisashi. He's done most of the scores for most of Miyazaki's films, and I do think this is his strongest work. I'll say it a little bit more about it in the recap, but something, or rather in the final thoughts at the end. But something that I find really compelling about this film is how maximalist and propulsive the film score is. I feel like it almost turns it into like a symphony or a ballet in terms of how much space it takes up in the soundscape of the film. It's an experience that I really, really enjoy. So Fujimoto is working. He's doing his magic, and we see Ponyo. So Ponyo is a giant goldfish, and she and her younger sisters, who are smaller goldfish, are depicted by this thing that you see frequently in anime that I did a little bit of research into. I wasn't able to find a term for it, but a couple of terms that I did find that folks have referred to it as are symbolic character design, character viewpoint design, or subjective visual coding. So these characters are supposed to be goldfish, but because the human characters perceive them as having human-like qualities, they are, especially Ponyo, at different stages of her transformation into being a human, depicted with human characteristics, which is an interesting thing about the film. But these are just supposed to be essentially goldfish.
I did think it was weird that they had human faces even before the transformation, because I had no idea what this film was about at all. I just knew it was like a Miyazaki film about a fish and the ocean. So I was a little surprised by that. You know, you watch a film like Finding Nemo and the fish, they look like fish.
Set fish faces.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
but they made it work. Pixar made it work.
I mean,
Miyazaki couldn't make it work.
Pixar walked so Studio Ghibli could run,
that's
right?
right.
You know, Pixar didn't have the creative cachet to make a film about fish with human faces, but finally, you know, this was a few years after Finding Nemo, they were able to use some of that creative capital to.
That's true. It was distributed by Disney in the U.S. Sure.
So Ponyo is escaping from Fujimoto's house, and we see her sisters kind of like helping to sneak her out while he's distracted by his work. I really love this opening scene because I feel like the way that she is depicted physically, like kind of sneaking in that stupid, clumsy way that children do, is a pretty truthful depiction of the way that kids at that young age behave when they're trying to be shifty. And I really like this whole opening scene, especially that first 12 seconds that I referenced, because, you know, Miyazaki has a thesis here, right, that he's trying to convey with this film, and really with all of his creative work, which is that the unseen natural world is just as magnificent and just as robust as the human world that most of us appreciate in our day-to-day lives. And he's really kind of conveying that with this opening scene, because then we are going to shift into the credits and then into the full first act, where we see kind of almost like a mirror scene. It's correlated of presenting the human world above the sea with a lot of the same like grandeur and like general sort of sense of whimsy. And so he's painting a clear picture of these kind of two worlds. So we go above the water, and we see a little bit about the small town that the general primary thrust of the film takes place in. And we go over to the house on the cliff by the sea. And we see Sosuke. He's our male lead. He's a human boy running down the stairs behind his house to a beach that's kind of right up against the cliff that his house is on. And Ponyo watches him run down from the water, like kind of longingly, like sees this little boy. And Sosuke finds her and describes her as a goldfish, which to my earlier point, she's got a human face. So
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that you found that a little bit odd. I would not describe her as a goldfish if I found her.
For all of the work that Miyazaki did in this film to try and portray the natural world with wonder and awe, ironically, I think I would scream in terror and step on a fish with a human face. I'm pretty sure I would kick that shit back in the ocean.
So when Sosuke finds Ponyo, she's trapped inside of a little jar, and he breaks the jar open with a rock and gets a cut on his finger while he does it. And she licks the cut on his finger, and it heals instantly. Sosuke's mom, her name's Lisa. She calls down to him from the house, and they have to get into the car to go to school. And he brings Ponyo up with him, and they get into the car. And as they're about to leave, the character of Fujimoto, whom we met in the opening sequence, is looking for Ponyo, and he approaches them in the car, but they rebuff him. He looks really weird. Yeah, do you want to describe him while we're having this conversation?
You describe his appearance, and then I want to talk about the voice cast a little bit in the English dub.
Oh yeah. This is a good point to talk about that for sure. Yep. So I'll let you say who he's played by. But Fujimoto has a bizarre appearance. He's very tall. He's got like long, fiery red hair, like down to below his shoulders, and a really long, like almost hook-shaped nose. And he's wearing this crazy suit. It's like white and I think light blue pinstriped, essentially. And as he approaches them in the car, he's got this like pump machine that he's using to spray water at his feet because he's a fish, right? So he can't dry out. And Lisa is an environmentalist, and so she's upset that she thinks that he's spraying like some sort of pesticide or something in the area. And
just on his feet.
Right, just accuses him of doing that, and he defends himself, and then they drive away. So what do you want to say about Fujimoto and about the voice cast?
So the English voice cast here, it's one of those classic Disney all-star Ghibli dubs. Is it Ghibli or Ghibli?
I say Ghibli. I think people say both.
Is it like GIF and GIF? Whatever. I don't want to get into that fucking debate. So Fujimoto, who I wrote in my notes, I said, this is David Bowie. So that's just what I referred to him as, is voiced by Liam Neeson in the English dub. And Lisa, Sasuke's mom, is voiced by Tina Fey. I guess I should say Sosuke is voiced by Frankie Jonas and Ponyo is voiced by Noah Cyrus, but I have nothing to say about their performances. I think they're both very good. So I have to say here, we hear Liam Neeson first because he has a real JD and Scrubs style internal monologue, and I thought his voice performance was excellent. As we've previously discussed, I don't generally have an issue with any of these Disney English dubs of Ghibli films. However, when we're in the car with Sosuke and Lisa, I did think to myself, I don't like Lisa's voice. And about halfway through the film, I realized, it's Tina Fey. And I like Tina Fey a lot. I really like 30 Rock. I've said many times, you haven't seen 30 Rock, but you need to, because as I've said many times, wife of the pod Caroline is Liz Lemon.
That guy wanted to buy you a drink.
Really? I already have a drink. Do you think you'd buy me mozzarella sticks?
Like Liz Lemon is Caroline if she grew up in New York City and was into theater instead of growing up in Rochester and was into, writing
polishing
and bugs
rocks.
and polishing rocks. Yep. Yeah. But I didn't love her voice performance, and she's one of the major characters of the film. So I did think to myself part of the way through, I think this film does lose something in the English dub. I am certain that I would have had a better experience watching the Japanese subversion, but we obviously couldn't do that because we had a 3.5-year-old watching with us. What do you think of the voice dub?
I have no issue with the voice dub, but it's also the primary way that I've watched the film. I think I'd only watched the Japanese version maybe once before, probably 10 years ago. So I really had no memory of it at all. It was on the Blu-ray that I had before I started watching this on Apple iTunes downloads. I don't know. I have no issue with Tina Fey's performance, but you're way more sensitive about this kind of stuff than I am.
It just seemed a little more wooden to me. I thought Liam Neeson did a better job of disappearing into his role than Faye did. But maybe I'm just biased because I'm so used to hearing her from watching 7 seasons of 30 Rock. I don't know. We'll never know.
Yeah. I do think that Liam Neeson's performance, as far as the adult performances go, is particularly strong. It's a pretty incredible voice performance, honestly. And what's interesting about it and how well it works is how distinctive Liam Neeson's voice is.
Yeah.
But while you're watching it, you really don't picture Liam Neeson. He does a really good job of kind of falling into that character, who is very different from Liam Neeson, in terms of the way he's characterized. So I do think that Liam Neeson's performance is special. It's really, really good.
I pictured David Bowie.
Yeah, listen, fair enough. While they're driving away, Lisa calls Fujimoto a freak show and then immediately corrects herself and says, but don't you call people freak show. We don't talk about people like that, which I think is a very funny, parent doing something bad in front of their child and then catching themselves and correcting it moment. And so I don't know how good a job I'm going to do of conveying some of these subtle character qualities in the recap. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what the characters are like as a bit of a preamble here. So Lisa's kind of a hot mess, right? Like that's like her whole character. Yep.
Oh,
she's always driving really erratically. She's always late. She's like a very headstrong, very sure of herself, I think generally competent person, but she's a pretty emotional decision maker. We see her kind of fall into these more expressive emotional moments at times in the movie when things happen to her that are difficult. And, that's the way her character is portrayed. You can tell in the way that she relates to Sosuke as a parent that they have a very strange kind of dynamic in their home, a little oddly flat sort of egalitarian parent-child relationship, relative to really even what we're used to in the West, but especially in Japan, where the parent-child relationship tends to be very formal in nature and very hierarchical.
Well, Sosuke has to be the man of the house because he has a deadbeat dad.
Well, and I was going to say that. So, part of the reason why I think both they have that kind of relationship and why Lisa is so headstrong and erratic is because she's really carrying so much on her shoulders. He doesn't have a deadbeat dad. His dad is a ship captain of some kind of, I think it's probably supposed to be like a container ship or something like that. It's definitely a ship that's doing some kind of merchant-based utility work, something like that. It's not he's not a military guy. He's involved in commerce in some way. He's a ship captain, and so he's always away. And so Sosuke's mom's name is Lisa. Sosuke's dad's name is Koichi, and we will almost never see Koichi in the movie.
Yeah.
We'll see a few scenes of him on the ship, and we'll see a couple scenes of him talking to them on the phone, but he's basically never around throughout the film.
Voiced by Matt Damon in the English dub.
Voiced by Matt Damon.
Yeah, the Martian himself.
So true. And so just to kind of sketch it really plainly, right, to support my eventual point. So we have two fathers in this film, right? They're kind of like the two archetypes of the bad father from Miyazaki's perspective, who, in addition to being a terrible father, also had a famously terrible relationship with his father and really hated him and really loved his mother. So there's the Koichi version of the father, who is very absent and very overly focused on his work. I think this is probably what Miyazaki was like as a dad. And then there's the Fujimoto version of the father, who is really overbearing and really controlling and only knows how to show love by smothering, essentially. And so these are cautionary tale versions of the father for Miyazaki to reflect on at this late point in his life.
I like that a guy who didn't know how to be a good father is making a film about fatherhood. It's pretty nice.
I mean, I think that he's making a film about how to be a bad father.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what he knew, right? He's not, there are no examples of good fathers in the film. He's just these are the ways I know that people are bad at it,
Let me tell you something. That Lisa, she's a fine piece of ass. If I was Matt Damon, I would not have abandoned her like that. I'd be at home taking care of her. Taking care of business.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yep. And I also get the impression watching the film that Lisa is probably supposed to be quite young. I've always gotten the impression watching it that maybe she's supposed to be between 24 and 27 years old. And so she's got a 5-year-old kid. She's pretty young to have this kind of responsibility. Yeah. So I think she's also pretty immature, just kind of in objective terms, to have the kind of responsibility in life that she has. I find the character of Lisa tremendously compelling.
All right, everyone, mark your bingo boards. Yeah. You said the thing.
Did you find the character of Lisa compelling?
I mean, yes, but again, I think I was a little distracted by the Tina Fey
by
of
the
it
voice
all.
performance.
I don't think her. Listen, she's no Amy Poehler when it comes to voice acting. That's all. And I love Tina Fey.
Yep.
I love Tina Fey.
Yep.
You got to watch 30 Rock. Caroline, I see you, Liz Lemon.
Hey, nerds! Guess who's got 2 thumbs, speaks limited French, and hasn't cried once today? This moi.
Yeah, there you go. So while they're in the car, Sosuke has a ham sandwich that he's eating, and Ponyo steals the ham out of the sandwich and becomes obsessed with ham. So she's going to be really into ham for the whole
Listen,
film.
I think ham is a goated deli meat.
Some ham is really good. You know, I grew up really hating ham.
Oh, really?
But it's because my family bought really bad ham.
Oh,
and
yeah?
they still do. They buy Crackus brand ham.
I don't even know
you
what
know
that
what
is.
Crackus brand ham is?
Crackus?
It's terrible. But like that's what they've always wanted. And then when I became an adult and I started doing my own shopping, I started buying like some better hams, and I was like, oh, I found ham disgusting for my whole life, but it's just because my family gets bad ham. Like there's lots of really good ham out there.
I don't like being at the beach for too long in the summer because sweat dribbles down my crackus.
Happy birthday. So they arrive at their destination, and their destination is 2 buildings that are next to each other. So Lisa is like some kind of an aide or like maybe a nurse or something in a senior center, and Sosuke goes to the preschool that is right next door to the senior center. They're like right next to each other,
convenient.
bisected by a short wall. It is very convenient. And the senior center that Lisa works in is unique. Do we have this kind of institution in America? Because the seniors don't live at the senior center. They come on a bus in the morning from their houses, and it's like a place for them to be during the day. They reference like having homes in discussion throughout the film.
That's a really good question. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we do. I think this might be a Japanese thing. Which is kind of interesting. But maybe it's supposed to be, when my grandma was alive, she used to go to like a community center and do senior activities sometimes during the day. Like she'd do like aquatic exercises, and like I think she'd do like crocheting and stuff. So maybe it's supposed to be like that kind of thing where it's less clinical in nature and more about being like almost like a social place for like older folks to go
Social
who don't
club.
have like family around or whatever. Seems like a really nice place. You know, the seniors are very thematically important to the film as well. So we'll talk about them in a couple minutes. So Sosuke arrives at school, and Lisa has commented to him in the car that his teacher doesn't like when people bring like show and tell stuff to school. And so he's initially a little brash about this, but as he comes up to the school, he reflects and he's like, oh, maybe the teacher will be mad if I have this fish. And so he hides her in a bush outside of the school and goes inside. When he goes inside, we see another little clue of kind of how overly mature Sosuke is for his age due to just the circumstances of his life. A little girl comes up to him and asks him to play, and he says, "I can't now. I'm busy." And she says, "You're not busy. You're 5," which is a line that always makes me laugh because no 5-year-old could possibly be busy.
Yeah.
But, you know, he thinks that he is because he's got this kind of overinflated sense of how much responsibility he has in his life. Because, to your point, he has to be the man of the house.
Listen, they used to have jobs, 5-year-olds.
That wasn't a good time in history.
But they knew the value of a hard day's work.
Yeah, it was like $1.
Yeah, an 18-hour day's work.
Sosuke goes out during school and visits Ponyo in the bushes, and Kimiko, the girl whom he had that exchange with a moment ago, finds him out there. Ponyo sees her and reacts jealously and sprays her and makes her cry. She runs into the school to tell the teacher what happened, and Sosuke runs away with Ponyo in the bucket to the senior center next door. When he arrives, we kind of see him slowly coming around the corner, and a few of the old ladies are sitting on their wheelchairs, kind of looking out at the ocean, out a kind of portico door in the back of the facility. And there's 2 seniors who are important. There's Yoshi, who's played by Betty White, and there's Toki, who's played by Lily Tomlin. And so these characters are kind of like meant to be mirror images of each other. Yoshi is a very warm, very loving, very caring older lady. And Toki is, to avoid using a misogynistic slur, a miserable old bat. I'm gonna sub in bat for the word that I think that most people would think of when they engage with this character. Did you notice the old ladies when you were watching the film? Did you see them as important?
I mean, the 2 who talk, sure.
Yeah. I mean, of course. Yeah. There are other old lady characters.
Yeah, there are like 5 old ladies.
They don't really speak. Yeah. There's really only 2 that matter. So as they come around, Yoshi hears Sosuke talking, and she says kind of condescendingly or wryly, it sounds like Sosuke, but I know our boy is in school, so it must just be in my head. Betty White's performance in this film is fantastic. I find her extremely funny. Did you like Betty White's performance in this film?
I thought she was really good. R.I.P.
Yeah, incredible voice actress. Like, you rarely think of her as a voice actress, I guess, or at least I do. Do you think of Betty White as a voice actress?
Well, no, because she wasn't famous for voice acting.
Right, that's what I mean. But I assume she did voice roles. I mean, she clearly had an knack for it based on this performance.
I don't know, man. We're not doing the Betty White podcast.
Sure. So Toki comes out, the other old lady, and she looks in the pail, and she also sees that Ponyo has a human face, and is terrified because I guess fish having human faces is like an omen for a tsunami. In Japanese culture.
I thought it was an omen that nuclear fucking waste runoff has entered the ocean.
Yeah, I mean, kind of part and parcel of one another, right? And spoiler alert, there is going to be a tsunami in this film.
Wow.
So, Toki was right to be worried about this. Her concerns really are vindicated. Ponyo sprays her, and she gets really upset. And Sosuke worries he's going to get yelled at for Ponyo spraying one of the old ladies. So he runs down to the beach with her to hide. But Fujimoto is there, and he uses his magic to summon water spirits and takes her back down into the ocean to his lair. After school and work, Lisa and Sosuke go shopping. Sosuke looks really depressed, really dejected. I think that I've commented on this earlier, but once again here, I think this film does such an especially good job as an animated film goes of depicting just the ways young children emote. Like, he's kind of hangdog and he's moving really slowly, and he's just not really cooperating with anything Lisa wants him to do, which is how little kids are when they feel sad about something. And on the way back in the car, Lisa says that Sosuke's father, Koichi, is coming home tonight, and that Sosuke can tell him about Ponyo when he gets back. And Sosuke leaves the green pail that she'd been riding in out on the fence so that she can see it if she comes back, and she knows that it's their house.
That'll be really helpful for her, a fish.
Oh, yeah, she can definitely
see the bucket
pails,
way up there. Yeah, let me climb
right
up
on the cliff, like
fucking
200
flippers.
feet up from the water. Yeah, I mean, he's 5, so... While they're making dinner, Koichi calls on the phone and tells them that he's going to take another supply run, so he actually won't be back tonight. And Lisa gets really pissed. And the way that all of this is portrayed makes it, I think, very clear that this happens all the time. That we're supposed to understand that this is a guy who's always prioritizing his work over being at home with his family.
I'm telling you, Lisa is bricked up in this movie. She really wants it. And the only reason... And the only reason Matt Damon is comfortable leaving her alone for so long is because the only other people who live in this fucking town are 5 senior citizens. So he's like, well, no one else is going to come fuck my hot wife.
Oh, my God. So we see Fujimoto back with Ponyo in his lair, and he's trying to get her to promise that she won't go back to the surface, but she won't do it. We learn her given name at this point. It's Brunhilde, and he insists on continuing to call her this name, but she tells him that she wants her to call him Ponyo and that she wants to be a human. And Fujimoto reflects that he was once human, which is kind of obvious since he just has a human body.
Since he looks like David Bowie.
Kind of a freakish human. Yeah, he just looks like David Bowie. But he says that he had to leave that all behind to serve the earth. We see Ponyo try to begin another transformation into being a human, and Fujimoto kind of presses some magic hands on her to stop her from doing it, but acknowledges that she's already very powerful and he's not going to be able to keep her from transforming into a human for very long.
Listen, I have a thing I could say. I wasn't sure when to say it.
I think you should say it, man. We're halfway done with the recap. We're making great time. You should say stuff if you have to say it.
Having seen films like this and The Little Mermaid, I can't help but feel that they're a little biased. They're a little too pro-land biased. Ponyo, Ariel, they want to experience the wonder and grandeur of the dry earth above the ocean. I don't know. You think they'd really want that if they were like sea creatures? How many of us want the inverse, to go into the deep, dark, briny sea?
Yeah.
Feels like a biased sort of thing to me.
This obviously is an adaptation of The Little Mermaid, right? But I think that what it's depicting, especially about human and child psychology and thematically, is very different from what The Little Mermaid is trying to depict, right? I mean, I think that we're supposed to understand that Ponyo just wants to go up onto land because it's not where she is, and she feels constrained by her father's like overbearing nature. So like, I don't think that we're supposed to understand that this 5-year-old sees there's like something really special and desirable about the land. I think it's just like the grass is always greener, especially when you're an unhappy 5-year-old.
You're right. It's that 5-year-old mindset. You know, if I needed to get away from you for a while, I don't think I'd walk into the fucking ocean. I think I would just drive to like Massachusetts or something. You know, clear my head.
You probably don't even have to go that far.
Not even that far.
Go over to like Albany. Probably.
Yeah, just go to Albany. Yep. Got to clear my head, get my head right. You know.
Beautiful country down there.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So Fujimoto gets on with his work, and so his work is very thinly sketched. I want to take this opportunity to say something that I really like about this film, and it's so funny because you and me were just talking about this when you were over to watch this film about Mad Max, Fury Road, but this film also does it. This film has a really complex and robust mythology that all the characters and forces and everything operate within that you probably could try to figure out, and that like Miyazaki probably knows, but it's sketched very thinly within the narrative. And so we understand that, you know, Fujimoto is some kind of wizard who's like doing some shit with a bunch of potions that he's always pouring into different things to try to like essentially herald in a new age of sea life that's going to drive humans extinct. Like that's what he's trying to do essentially, but it's never explained in any kind of substantive way. And that's done for two reasons, right? I mean, one reason is that that much like Mad Max Fury Road, this is supposed to be a kind of vibes movie that's just about the journey and the experience, and the specifics of the plot are relatively unimportant to the way you're supposed to feel when you're watching it. But beyond that, I mentioned this up at the top, this is, in effect, kind of a first person / third person limited narrative as far as a film is concerned. And so what is and is not spotlighted is kind of contingent upon what a child would care about and how a child would care about things. And so like nobody gives a shit about like the specifics of Fujimoto's work because a kid would never care about that. Like kids don't care about the details of what their parents do. When the apocalypse happens later in the film, there's not going to be like a lot of drama about the apocalypse or anything. You know that of course the humans, like the human adults are worrying about it, but Ponyo and Sosuke are 5. They don't care. Like Sosuke's just worried that his mom's not there and he wants to get back to his mom. And like, he's not really thinking about how crazy it is that like the entire world is flooded and there's, prehistoric fish life that's come back to life from being fossils underneath the ocean. Spoiler alert. So,
yeah.
So anyway, we see Fujimoto doing his vague work of pouring liquid into other liquid, and remarks to himself that it would be really bad if an animal got into this specific well that he like is pouring a bunch of his elixirs into. And he says one of my favorite lines in the film in this moment, which is something that just it's one of those things that's kind of played in my head for years. We talk about those things every once in a while. And I was fascinated to find when I watched the Japanese dub earlier today that this is actually like a totally honest recreation of the actual Japanese line. And it's a very funny Liam Neeson line read. He says, "Ah, yes, I can feel the power of the ocean in the furthest reaches of my DNA," after taking like a big sip of one of his elixirs. And it's such an insane thing to hear Liam Neeson say. Like, what does that even mean? And so that plays in my head like once or twice a week.
Yeah, bro's got mad elixirs.
Oh, he does. Yep. And he explains to my earlier comment that when he manages to fill the well all the way up with his elixirs, it is going to hearken in a new age of the ocean and humans will be driven to extinction. And as he's entering and exiting the room with the most important whale in it, the door sticks a little bit and he remarks to himself, "I'll fix that later," which spoiler alert, he really should have fixed that now.
Yeah.
Because it's going to have pretty calamitous consequences. Yeah. Yep. So now we see one of my 2 or 3 favorite sequences of the film. It's Ponyo's second escape. You may recall the doorbell rang during the scene.
I do remember.
I made us rewind and watch it again.
I did not love that
You got really
choice.
pissed, but the whole sequence is 41 seconds long, so I don't really think it was that big of a deal that we went back and watched it again. I was surprised how short it was. I went and checked again earlier today to try to decide whether you were justified in being frustrated about it.
You know what I wrote in my notes here? I wrote, Mike going back 2 minutes to restart some bullshit sequence of Ponyo growing her nightmarish limbs and escaping Liam Neeson's house. That's how I felt about it in the moment.
You fucking nailed my ass right there. This is a really nice sequence. So I mentioned the score at the top. I want to talk about it a little bit here. It's very propulsive and very maximalist in its implementation. But another thing I really like about it is it employs pretty consistent set of like a relatively small number of leitmotifs. And it has just a lot of ostinato, which I really, really enjoy in film scores. This is a particularly strong portion of the score in that way. It has a real driving nature to it, but it's also quoting a lot of stuff that we've heard earlier in the film. So it's kind of like resurfacing some of those earlier emotions that we felt. And I feel like you already said it better than I did. You know, we see this great sequence of her sprouting her freakish human limbs and turning back into a human. But she's very like... I don't really know what the best way would be to describe it. She's very victorious in the way that she's doing it, in a way that's pretty compelling to a viewer. Like, she's very proud of herself that she's managed to escape his magic, and she's kind of I think a little pissed off in this scene at having been contained in the way that she didn't want to be. And so she kind of goes around the house and acts as a little bit of a chaos agent before leaving. She lets all the fish in from the outside and knocks over a bunch of shit. And so all these fish get in and end up going down into the well. And as I referenced earlier, triggering the apocalypse. Nora said something in the scene that really made me laugh, and so I wrote it down. As the fish were about to go into the well, Nora said, "What happens if water gets into his little bucket of things he has?" And I think little bucket of things he has is a very funny way to describe a giant well.
You got to take her to hold her over a well sometime. Just, hold on tight.
There's that little bucket. Yep. So all the fish come in, the well is contaminated, and Ponyo emerges from his lair fully transformed. We see her kind of blast up out of the ocean. And this is like one of my favorite kinds of anime sequences. I think you must really enjoy this thing as well, right? It's very evocative, almost of like Evangelion-esque visual storytelling. We see this like relatively horrifying transformation of like her sister goldfish into these like aquatic, like giant aquatic dolphin creatures.
Yeah.
They're like dolphins made of water. And like as the tsunami apocalypse starts, the way that it starts is with the sisters kind of blasting up out of the water, and like they're just these enormous like cargo tanker sized water dolphins like blasting up into the air and then blasting down and creating these enormous tsunami waves. So like if you've never seen this film, you should watch it, but you should at least maybe watch like a little YouTube video to see like what the visuals look like. It has it's very lively in its animation. Everything is always moving. And so the scene is like crazy. It's like a fucking fever dream, like seeing all this shit happen. What did you think of this scene?
I thought it was a really cool scene. I didn't care as much for the sequence of Ponyo growing her limbs, but I really liked this sequence above water of the giant water fish beginning the apocalypse. I was going to say that they were gushing up, but then I wonder, because I don't know the answer to this, is gush one of those words that people don't like the word moist? Do you know?
It's got to be, right?
Yeah.
It's a pretty gross word when you talk about something gushing.
Yeah. Guys,
But that's not, yeah.
Write into ourherodeniro@gmail.com. Let us know how you feel about me saying the words moist and gush.
I mean, for me, neither of those words bother me, but especially not gush, because I grew up just loving gushers. You remember gushers?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and listen, I'll eat them if you put them in front of me, but I feel like there's always one that broke in the package, so when you open it, they're always so sticky.
I don't know. I was a gushers freak. So, as the kind of waves crash down, we see that Koichi's ship is right there near kind of the origin point of the tsunami. And he sees the waves crash down and the ship is almost knocked over, but it's not. And then he sees Ponyo running on one of the fish waves. And so this is another brief moment with Koichi here. So the storm starts, and Sosuke leaves school, and he goes over to the senior center to leave with his mom, and the power is out as they're leaving. He has a conversation with the old ladies, and we see another great Toki moment where she's being just the kind of miserable old lady whom everybody finds really frustrating to know. And she's just complaining, as these types of old ladies do, about how everything is bad now. And the specific thing that she's complaining about is that weather forecasts are really inaccurate, which for what it's worth is something I complain about all the time as a recently 38-year-old man. Is this something that you complain about?
No, I feel like it is pretty useless a few days out, but I generally just check for the same day. Friend of the pod, Lips, doesn't look at the forecast. In
I
fact,
know, we've talked about
he
this.
He
Yeah,
gets
it's
annoyed
interesting.
at me when we're on walks and I check the forecast. Shout out to Philip, aka Ellipse. Hope you're listening to this episode. He's running behind. He doesn't have enough
I hope
time.
he's listening to this episode.
He's lagging behind and staying current with the podcast because he just doesn't. I don't know. Don't you do any idle activities where you just listen to podcasts? Wash
yeah, what
the
about like
dishes?
washing the dishes?
Take
or
a walk?
like going for a walk?
Yeah,
Like what's
walking
going
the
on?
dog or
Hey,
something? Gardening? What are you doing, man?
Hey, Philip, why don't you write into ourherodeniro@gmail.com and tell us how you're so behind on the podcast? That doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah. We look
We'll
forward to
hear
hearing
from him in
you.
January.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. So they leave the senior center. Lisa and Sosuke, they get on the road and the storm is terrible. And this town is like a mountain town, right? So a lot of the driving they do to get to their house that's on the cliff is on those kinds of cliffside roads that just have like one small little guardrail
road,
that's
yeah.
kind
Narrow
of
road,
right,
yeah.
narrow road with one small guardrail. And we see Lisa do some of her worst driving in this scene as a character, one of whom's main character traits is that they're a really bad driver. She's just driving very recklessly, in spite of, just how bad these circumstances are.
Yeah, I want to pause here and talk about this for a little bit because it to me seemed like very reckless parenting. We're talking real child endangerment stuff here. So why did she need to get home? Was it because she needed to signal to her husband, Matt Damon, that she was okay?
I'm really not sure.
Yeah,
honestly.
I wasn't sure either. I thought that's why,
Yep.
because later on they try to like turn on the signal or whatever because they're at the senior center and that seems like a safer place and they're advised to not leave. Like at one point she's driving haphazardly and some guy at a bridge or a lock or something tells her like, you really shouldn't go that way. We're really advising that everyone
Right, take the
move in
other
the
road.
opposite
Like,
direction.
yeah.
And she's like, fuck that and fuck you. And she slams the gas and narrowly misses a tsunami. And it's like, you have a 5-year-old in the car with you. What are you going back to your empty house for? Go back to your
Yeah.
safe job.
I think we're just supposed to like think of her as like kind of nuts,
Man.
like very reckless, very foolhardy. Like, yeah, and I think you're supposed to think like, she's obviously a very loving mother, but like I think she's kind of a bad mom.
Maybe that's why Matt
like
Damon's
she's
like,
putting a lot on him.
yeah, Matt Damon's like, I just got to stay on this boat for as long as possible. If I just stay on the sea, I don't have to deal with this shit at home.
So the thing that you described happens, right? Which is a part of this sequence that is like Lisa being a really horrible parent.
Yeah.
But the other thing that happens is while they're driving on the cliffside road, Sosuke sees Ponyo because she's looking for him running on the wave, but he doesn't recognize her as Ponyo because she's a little human girl now. So what he tells Lisa is that he saw a little girl out in the water because that's what he saw.
Yeah.
And Lisa stops the car, understandably, because she's worried about whether there's a child who she should be doing something to save as an adult who's here in this situation. But like she lets Sosuke get out of the car with her and they stand in the rainy wind, like right near the cliffside for like 15 seconds. And he's actually almost blown away. And she just catches him and pulls him back to dry land. It's,
I don't know.
It's some very bad parenting.
Do you think, because this is very, I think, instinctual, do you think you would actually stop your car? I don't think that I would.
I don't think so, right? I think that if I knew that there was a child, I might think about it. But I think that if my 5-year-old child told me that they saw a child, I think I would be like, well, I might not even stop in the situation, even if I did know there was a child who needed my help.
There's a
because I need to
tsunami
protect my own
happening.
child.
Yeah.
But I'm certainly not going to stop because my child, a 5-year-old, told me they saw something. Like 5-year-olds, famously reliable observers of reality. Right.
This is like a time attack situation, and she stops because in the biggest storm ever, her 5-year-old son thinks he saw a girl running on the waves.
Like, I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking
I'd be
about?
like, go back to your coloring book. What do you do? Yeah, I'm trying to drive the Suzuki here.
So anyway, they get back in the car after Sosuke almost blows away, and they get home, and Ponyo is already there with the green bucket that Sosuke had left out for her to find him with. And as she runs towards Sosuke, she kind of pulls the bucket over her face. It's a really fun little animation moment, and like she looked kind of fish-like when she first arrived. And as she runs toward him and pulls the bucket up over her face, she transforms into her fully human form. I noted here that my interpretation of that is that it's proximity to him that allows her to fully embody her aspirational human form. And after they hug for like 15 or 20 seconds, he realizes that it's Ponyo, the fish. Lisa brings them into the house, and she goes to dry Ponyo off, but she's already dry because she's a fish, and she has totally prehensile toes, which is a little bit weird. Lisa serves them
because she's not a real human. She's like human in appearance, you know. She's
right.
A fake human. Who knows what's
but
going
her
on
toes
inside
are like
her
a fish
grotesque
fin, right?
nightmare
like
body.
Right, like a prehensile fish fin.
Yeah.
in her toes. Yep. Lisa serves them tea with honey and asks Ponyo what her dad is like, and she says he hates humans and keeps me in a bubble, and that her mom is big and beautiful, but she can be scary. And Sosuke says, just like my mom.
I agree.
The power's out in the house. Yep, the power's out in the house. They try to start the generator, but the fuel line is clogged. And Lisa tries to prime the pump, but it doesn't work. But Ponyo can see, using her magic, that there's a clog in one of the fuel lines, and she uses her magic to unclog it. And they need the power to be turned on so they can call Koichi. And I noted here that this is another like one of those things about the way that this film centers the child's perspective, is that like, you know, obviously Lisa thinks Koichi's probably fucking dead. Like, yeah. Right? Like, look around.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
But like, you don't perceive that as at all in the narrative because like the children don't perceive it. You know, like Sosuke doesn't know that his dad's probably dead. Like he asked his mom earlier in the sequence whether dad's okay, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure. Like that's what ships do. They're fine." Like as if like a ship is just fine.
Yeah, they capsize
out in a tsunami. Like yes. Lisa makes ramen for them. This is Nora's favorite part.
Oh yeah,
and. Miyazaki is famous for his food sequences.
Yeah.
Do you know that, Mike?
I did know that, and I have a comment about this food scene. So tell me what you want to say first, and I'll tell you what I want to say about it.
I think it's one of the really great ones. I mean, it's one of my favorites. I think my favorite Miyazaki food sequence that I can think of off the top of my head right now is probably the scene in Spirited Away where her parents turn into pigs.
Yeah.
And they're like, they're going to town on all that food.
Yep.
Like, that's definitely better than this. But I really enjoy this ramen sequence. It's very evocative. It makes me want to eat that food. What did you think of it? Yeah,
I thought this was nowhere near as good as that scene in Spirited Away. I was not feeling enticed to eat the ramen in this scene. And I noticed... This is just an animation thing. This is not a knock on the film at all, but I noticed how exaggerated time-wise Tina Fey's movements were when she was making the ramen. I was like, oh, everything is just taking, like in real life, you would just kind of like rip open the package, but it's all like very slow and like whatever. So, you know, it's stylized. I was like, I get it. I get what you're doing.
It's just impressionist film storytelling.
Yeah.
It's the child's perception.
Sure. Yeah, you know, time is money. I'm getting old. I'm 36. You're 38. You're basically dead.
It's a really short movie, man.
It's 100 minutes.
It's only like an hour and a half long. Like
it's 100 minutes.
It's pretty short. Yeah. All right. Sure. I mean, a lot of that is that terrible Jonas Brothers song at the end.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Lisa and the kids are looking out the window and they see a light at the senior center. And to your earlier comment about why did Lisa need to go back to the house, for some reason she sees the light in the senior center and decides she needs to go back and help.
Fucking
and
crazy!
Leave the kids there,
you were
which
just
is like
there.
It is nonsense. You were just there.
Right,
why
like,
didn't you stay?
Right.
If you
what
wanted
are your
to
priorities?
Help?
Because one, she works at the senior center where only there are like 5 old women who hang out there, but it's just her and seemingly one other employee. So she left the one employee to take care of these 5 women during a tsunami so that she could go back to her house for no reason with her son. And then she's like, wait, actually, son, we need to get back in the car and take that exact same dangerous route back.
But she's not going to bring him with her.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Oh, yeah, that's right. She's leaving him at the house. That's
she
right.
leaves him there, which
that's
is even
right.
worse.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I wrote here, she asked Sosuke and Ponyo to stay back at the house, which I guess is probably safer than going with her, but she should really probably also just stay.
Not only is she responsible for her only child, she's also responsible for this other child. And she's like, listen, correct. You guys just turn off the TV after 11, you know, whatever, lock the door.
Yeah. All right, so we then cut to a scene of Koichi and his first mate on their ship, and they are approaching basically like a a kind of sea of lights out in the water, which they initially perceive as a city with a mountain behind it with lights on it. They think maybe they've been blown to China by the by the tsunami. And they realize that it's actually just a bunch of ships that are kind of on a wall of water that's being pulled up by the moon that is very close to the Earth.
It's a classic interstellar situation.
Oh, classic interstellar situation. Yep. And so it's revealed in this moment that the kind of source of the tsunami apocalypse is that the moon is falling to Earth. My recommendation today is going to be the Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask.
Oh yeah,
another great, another
great film recommendation.
About the moon falling to the Earth. So as they're standing there looking on, a gigantic woman, like bigger than the ship, kind of like a gigantic glowing red-haired woman,
a real
floats
BBW
under the ship. A real one of cinema's great BBWs in the history of cinema, floats under the ship, and as she floats under, the engines of the ship start back up. They'd been dead prior, and Koichi refers to her as the goddess of mercy, who is this deity in Buddhism called Guan Yin. So you can look this lady up if you want to.
I'll jump right on that.
Really need to. It's not really important. And interestingly enough, they don't call her that in the Japanese version.
Oh.
So I found that very interesting when I was watching it earlier today. That like maybe that's like a creation of the localization. Not really sure. Thought that was that was very odd. And Fujimoto, at the same time, is approaching Sosuke's house up on the cliff, and he tries to get in, but Ponyo has used her magic to put a warding spell around the house, and the way that he's gotten up to the house is he's ridden one of his, like, weird water spirits up, and we see him look down, and Ponyo's little freakish goldfish sisters are, like, tickling the base of the water spirit to make it drop him, essentially.
Here's a question for you. I did a little looking into the mythology of this film after I watched it because I wanted to understand how much of it was steeped in Japanese folklore and mythology and how much of it was just Miyazaki going full freak mode. Is there a reason why Ponyo is bigger than every other goldfish?
I think she's just supposed to be the oldest, probably.
Oh, okay.
That's one of those things that you wonder about, right? So like my allusion to Mad Max Fury Road earlier, right? I mean, you can wonder, like, is there something special about her? Is she just the oldest one? Is this maybe a situation where most of them don't mature? You know, so like the way that this whole like situation of like his child rearing works is that he just gets this stable of hundreds of tiny little goldfish, and like most of them are going to die, and like 1 out of 100 will grow to like the 5-year-old girl human sized goldfish. Like, I don't know. No, I don't think we're supposed to understand the reason why. I think you're supposed to wonder about it.
Oh, and wonder I do.
Did you find anything out in your research into the mythology of this film?
No, it was inconclusive. It was that, you know, Miyazaki was inspired by Japanese folklore bullshit, but I didn't see any like actual specifics, and I didn't look that hard.
Gotcha. Okay. So Ponyo's mother, that's a giant BBW who was the goddess of mercy who went under the ship.
Yeah.
Her name is Grandmamère. Who's she played by?
Cate Blanchett.
Cate Blanchett. I was just gonna let you say it because you've been
Lydia Tarr, baby. I'm going to recommend Tar.
Love Tar. That's going to be my recommendation today.
Oh, man, Double Jeopardy coming right up.
Yep. So she visits him on his little boat that he's sailing on, and he's immediately like cowed by her and much more demure and shy than he usually is. And he explains what's going on and says that it's all his fault that this is happening. And she explains that they need to test Sosuke and Ponyo, and if they find that Sosuke's love for Ponyo is pure, then she can be permanently transformed into a human, and it will end the apocalypse. And if he's not successful, then the whole world is going to be transformed into sea foam.
It seems like a lot of pressure to put on a 5-year-old.
I mean, that's just what his whole life has been like,
yeah,
right?
Well, Matt Damon. Listen, I'm willing to be Sosuke's stepfather, is all I'm saying.
Okay, I think that's great. The next morning, Ponyo wakes Sosuke up in the house on the cliff. The ocean has risen completely to their doorstep. There's something visually that I really like in the scene. I really like the way this film in particular depicts the blurriness of reflection in animation.
Yeah.
It's just like very wavy and blurry when you look at the reflection. I think it's really, really cool. Ponyo uses her magic to turn a toy boat into a boat that's big enough for the two of them to ride in. And they ride the boat into town and see a bunch of ancient fish from the Devonian age underwater. And the entire world is totally flooded. They meet a couple with a baby on a big rowboat. Ponyo wants to give soup to the baby, but the baby can't eat the soup because it's a baby. And so the mom explains that she has to eat the soup so she can turn it into milk to feed the baby. And the baby has a cold. And as they leave, Ponyo sprints back across the water as her fish version of herself and rubs her face with the baby, and it cures the baby's cold. As they approach land on their boat, Ponyo gets really sleepy and she can't do her magic anymore. And as she gets sleepier and sleepier and falls asleep, her magic overall starts to degrade. And so the boat shrinks back down to its original toy size. And Sosuke just makes it to dry land with Ponyo and the fish with Ponyo and the boat before it completely shrinks. When they get to land, Sosuke finds Lisa's car and breaks down because he misses his mom.
He's like, fuck, both my parents are dead now. I'm just, this fucking fish person is my new partner for life. It's us against the world. Goldfish live like 3 weeks.
Yep. So we cut to the town that the senior center is in, and it's all totally underwater. And there's kind of this like bubble that's been constructed, and all of the seniors are there. They can use their legs now. And Lisa is talking to Ponyo's mother, and the old ladies say they've been talking all night and day. Importantly, Toki is not there. All of the other ladies are in the underwater town. So Ponyo and Sosuke walk through a tunnel, and as they get through, she slowly starts to revert to her fish form. And as she does, the bucket drags on the ground. I really like this scene. I feel like it's kind of shot and edited like a horror film in a way that's kind of strange. Like, it's very different tonally from the rest of the film in a way that I think is like really nicely evocative of like Sosuke's state of mind at this point. Like, he's probably pretty scared. Things are pretty messed up in his life right now.
It is the apocalypse.
Right. Yep. He just makes it with Ponyo to the water so she can breathe because she's turned back into a fish. And as he gets there, Fujimoto rises from the water and explains that Sosuke's mom and like all the other people are down in the underwater town with him and he should come with him. And Toki is also up there across the water, and she calls and says, don't listen to that wacko. He tricked all the others into coming with him, but he couldn't fool me. And Sosuke runs across the water and tries to get to Toki. And just as she catches him, Fujimoto uses his water spirits to drag all three of them, Sosuke, Ponyo, and Toki, down underwater.
I just have to say, I mean, Fujimoto's right? Like, there are some environmental themes to this film, and Miyazaki and Fujimoto are right. Like, we've totally fucked up the ocean.
Yes.
We're just disgusting, trash monsters who pollute everything we touch.
Yeah, but ultimately that's not his thesis.
His MO.
I don't think.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think it is his thesis. So we'll talk about this in the final recap, right? But like, this is a much softer film.
Yeah,
and
it's a soft film.
Yeah, I think at the end, his take on his overall project, right? So Miyazaki's like entire project for his entire career has been like anti-war, pro-pacifism, anti-industrialism, pro-environmentalism,
anti-parenting.
Like that's like, right. That's his whole perspective as a creative person. And he's exploring those themes still in this film. But his ultimate thesis is, I'll share what it is right at the end. But it's a much softer, I think, conclusion about those things that he's kind of wrestled with throughout his career prior to this point. And he didn't really need to make any more movies after this one. He did, but he really didn't. in my opinion, he could have just stopped here. So anyway, they're all down underwater now. And once they get down there, Toki is initially trying to swim, and the old ladies tell her that she doesn't have to swim and that she can breathe, whatever. And Sosuke and Ponyo wake up, and Ponyo is a little fish, and Ponyo's mother approaches them and explains the whole deal to Sosuke, essentially, that like Ponyo is a fish, but she's also a human, so she inhabits both worlds, and they need to understand whether Sosuke can love her in all of her forms, like all of the kind of rich complexity to who she is. And Sosuke says he can, and that he loves all of the Ponyos. And Grandma Mare says that, like, basically he, like, passed the test, essentially. And that when they return to land, all that Sosuke needs to do is kiss the bubble that little fish Ponyo is in, and she'll turn into a human and they can live together forever. And after this happens, you know, there's this very, like, sort of celebratory tone moment, and you can see off in the distance that the person who is the most moved by this is Toki. Like, she's, like, the only one who seems to really care about what's going on. And she is, like, so moved by this happening that she runs towards Sosuke. She's the first one to get to him. And she just, like, grabs him in her arms and says, "My Sosuke." And that's basically, like, the end of the story. There's a little coda after that. We briefly see Sosuke and his family, Ponyo and Lisa, up on dry land with Fujimoto. And Fujimoto hands him his boat and goes to shake his hand in a very weird way and says, "Remember me fondly, if you will," in a very businesslike way. And then they see Koichi off on the boat, and they wave to each other, and the bubble flies up in the air. Sosuke kisses it. Ponyo turns back into a human, and the film ends. And we get the Jonas Brothers song.
Oh, the best part, some might say.
Yeah, I mean, listen, sure, I've danced to that song a lot of times this year.
Oh,
I really like the part where the beat kind of drops. You probably don't remember that part because I think it happened after Astrid shit on the floor and you got her shit on your sock.
Yeah.
So I think you walked away while the techno part played.
I stepped on a little dog turd. I had to take care of that pretty immediately.
So before we talk about your thoughts, let me just talk a little bit about the Japanese version. So here are some things about the Japanese version that I think are important to note. So one thing is that in the Japanese script, Sosuke calls his mother Lisa and his father Koichi. He doesn't call them mom and dad.
Interesting.
Which is obviously really, really unusual.
That's a choice, yeah.
So it's a creative choice that Miyazaki made in the script. And so I think that, it's meant to kind of evoke the very strange kind of flat egalitarian structure the family has, and also the ways that Sosuke is made to feel like a peer of his parents instead of, their charge, which is really the right way for a child of that age to be made to feel developmentally, to really thrive. But the other thing about it is, I think a lot of what does make Lisa a good mother is the way that she sees children as whole people, instead of like sort of smaller versions of people who don't deserve as much respect as full people do. And it really takes both, right? You should have that attitude about children, but you should also understand, especially when they're very little, that, they do need your guidance and to be babied a little bit to kind of grow into full versions of themselves. I noted that Fujimoto's Japanese voice has a very different affect than Liam Neeson's. It's a really, really different performance, which kind of changes the way the character feels.
Interesting.
It's much more high-pitched than Liam Neeson's performance. The "You're not busy, you're 5" line is not in the Japanese performance. Toki's voice is totally different from Lily Tomlin's performance. It's much higher pitched, which I wonder if is maybe the sort of stereotypical Japanese style voice for a curmudgeonly old woman, because the way Lily Tomlin plays Toki is kind of, I think, what we have in our minds as like what a curmudgeonly old woman sounds like in Western society. When Lisa and Sosuke are driving back after he loses Ponyo, she doesn't tell him that when Koichi gets home, he can tell him about Ponyo. He tells him that he needs to cheer up because his father will be disappointed if he's in a bad mood when he comes home from being at sea, which I think is a pretty different way for that scene to be, I think, in terms of the expectation that's being set. I wrote, "Superb. I feel the ocean's power in my very DNA." And I cannot believe how truthful what I always thought must be a crazy mistranslation based on how absurd the line was actually is to the original Japanese dialogue. When Ponyo talks about Fujimoto in the scene where Lisa asks her about her dad, she calls him Fujimoto the same way Sosuke calls his mom Lisa, which I wondered if was supposed to say something thematically like Sosuke doing it does, or if she's just emulating him, kind of as her example of how humans are supposed to act. When Koichi sees the kind of the mountain of ships that he perceives as a city initially, and in the American script he says they must have been blown to China. He says they must have been blown to America, which I thought was interesting. That's really a lot farther.
Was this?
Yep.
I mean, the setting in the English dub is still Japan, isn't it?
Yes, but I think that the reason why it's America in the Japanese dub is because I think that the setting is actually supposed to be a little bit vague. Like, it's not really very explicitly Japanese.
That's
the setting
so
of
weird.
the film isn't.
I felt that the setting was so distinctly Japanese that I think it was another one of those causes of dissonance hearing the English dub. Although I suppose a child wouldn't feel that way.
Yeah. I noted this already, but Koichi does not reference the goddess of mercy explicitly in the Japanese script. Something that I found really odd about it, and that really changes the overall vibe of the film, is the Japanese script is much more explicit that Sosuke and Ponyo's love is romantic. Not sexual, which would be really weird, but it describes it as romantic love explicitly, which could be like a linguistic quirk. Obviously, there are a lot of things that Japanese as a language has different ways of describing than Germanic and Romance languages like English do. But I found that really odd because I think that's something that I like so much about the film's English localization is how it doesn't treat their love as romantic at all.
It's innocent.
And it's almost supposed to be like childlike, like familial, innocent love. So that gives it kind of a different valence that I liked a little bit less when I was watching it. In the end of the sort of final main scene of the film, as Grandma Mare floats away, she says, "Take good care of her," and Lisa says, "I will." In the Japanese script, Grandma Mare says, "I'm grateful, Lisa," and she thanks her. Lisa thanks her instead of what they say in the English script. And in that final scene where Fujimoto says, "Remember me kindly, if you will," he explicitly asks for Sosuke to forgive him as his final line to him, instead of to remember him kindly. So, I don't know. I found the experience of watching the Japanese version interesting. As a general rule, with the exception of Fujimoto, because I really think that Liam Neeson's performance is incredible. It's one of the strongest things about the film. I generally liked the Japanese dub better in terms of the way it sounded. I think you might like it if you went back and watched it.
Yeah.
It might improve your experience of the film overall if you ignore some of the ways the script changes it tonally that I think you also would not like the way that I did. But I think I prefer the English script. I like the small little tweaks they made from a localization perspective. So there you go. That's Ponyo. And with that, it's time to move into our final thoughts. But Mike, before I turn it over to you, we are fortunate to be graced by a special guest appearance by daughter of the pod, Nora. And so here is a conversation that I had with Nora a little bit earlier about Ponyo.
Sounds great.
I am here with a very special guest. Very special guest. Can you tell us what your name is?
I'm Snor.
And how old are you?
I'm 3.
3. Wow. And what's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie is Ponyo.
Oh, that's great. Did we watch Ponyo yesterday for Our Hero Dinero?
Yes.
And what did you think? Did you have a good time?
Yes.
Well, I want to ask you some questions about Ponyo so you can be on the podcast, okay? What's your favorite part of Ponyo?
But with a ramen.
What do you like about the ramen part?
Because Ponyo said hot, 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 hot.
Ponyo, she does say hot, 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 hot. You don't need to put your mouth so close to the microphone. You can probably sit like back here.
Hot, because it goes hot, 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 hot.
That's true. She does do that. And who's your favorite character in Ponyo anyway?
Ponyo.
Yeah, what do you like about her?
She was a fish, and she looked even cuter when she was a fish.
She's not just as cute when she's a little girl?
No.
Oh, you like her when she's a fish?
Yes.
What about her little sisters? Do you think they're cute?
Yes.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. And what do you think Ponyo's about anyway? What do you think the movie's about?
I don't know.
Do you think it's about daddies? Oh, you think it's about mommies. Okay, well, who's your favorite mommy in Ponyo?
Lisa.
You like Lisa? That's your favorite mommy? What about Grandma Mare, Ponyo's mommy? Do you like her?
I like her.
Yeah. Is there anybody else in the movie who you like?
No.
Okay. And do you think there's anything about Ponyo that you would change? Is there anything you would make different about the movie if you could?
Yes, there is.
Okay, what would you change?
I would change me to be Sosuke.
Oh, yeah, you would be Sosuke so you can hang out with Ponyo?
Yes.
That sounds great. All right. Well, thank you, Sonora, for being here on Our Hero De Niro. Do you have anything else you want to say to De Niro Nation?
I want to get a birdie pet.
Well, there it is. It's on the record for everybody. Thanks for being with us, Nora. Love you, babe.
Love you.
All right. Thanks, Nora. Great to hear from you. So anyway, Mike, what were your thoughts?
I hope you enjoy hearing this episode of the podcast, Nora. Time for final ratings, huh? I've been sitting on this for a couple of days now. I liked Ponyo, and I am giving it 4 out of 5.
All right. Tell me more.
So, the positive here, the hand-drawn animation, of course, is spectacular. It's very vibrant and fluid. Love all that stuff, especially in a sea, pun not intended, of modern CGI animated fucking junk. I remember we watched, Despicable Me fucking 20 last year for our year of IMAX. So yeah, I'll take this anytime over that. And I think the film does a really great job of capturing the feeling of being a child, that sense of childlike wonder and curiosity. That's nice too. It's also very emotionally simple in a very straightforward and focused kind of way that I think is nice. I do have to say, I think the best part of this film, at least from my perspective, was the orchestral score by Joe Hisaishi. I thought not that I ever thought this was a bad film, but there were definitely sequences where I thought to myself, oh, the music is doing 90% of the work right here. I was just like, this is really phenomenal stuff. So it's
on a whole other level.
Yeah, I really enjoyed listening to that score throughout the movie. Very operatic, very epic, really great. And it's also a very accessible film. It was nice watching it with Nora and seeing her reaction to it, but it's not a masterpiece in my mind. So it kind of transition over to the negatives. At least for me, I would rate this as, I haven't seen Miyazaki's whole filmography. I should probably do that at some point. But of his films that I've seen, I think this was my least favorite. It was no Spirited Away. It was no, I can't think of the other one that everyone talks about all the time.
Howl's Moving Castle.
Howl's Moving Castle, My Neighbor Totoro.
Princess Mononoke.
It was none of those.
My Neighbor
Kiki's
Totoro.
It didn't reach that level for me. I think part of it was just the type of story that he was telling. He definitely, this film skews younger in terms of its protagonist's age. And in so doing, I think it's telling a different type of story, whereas some of those other ones are more coming of age stories. This is a little different in that respect. The plot felt a little thin and meandering at times. It was definitely, like you said, a vibes film. And I don't know, compared to a film like Spirited Away or Princess Mononoke, to me, Ponyo felt a little less layered in terms of its themes and moral complexity. I think that, some of those aforementioned films I think they have more developed, more mature themes that just resonate with me a little bit more. I just felt that Ponyo was a little tonally uneven, watching it as an adult. It was very charming, but it was so child-focused in its tone that it just, at some points, it felt a little slight and saccharine for me. Kind of lacked the emotional heft of other Ghibli films. So I think it's a successful film. It just didn't reach the emotional highs and philosophical highs, really, of the other Miyazaki films that I've seen. So I give it a solid 4 out of 5 stars. What do you have to say to that? I feel like you're probably going to have a response before you jump into your 5-star rating of this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree, but I don't have to, I think, rebut your points specifically. I mean, I understand them all, and I think I'll address them in my description of the themes and in my final thoughts. So let me talk about some of the things that this film is about. And to reference, my earlier point, there is a general sort of undergirding thematic framework of this film that is very similar to the rest of Miyazaki's filmography, right? It's about pastoralism. It's about the joy of a small life. It's about, the small dramas of childhood and how, unimportant they are in the grand scheme of things, but how important they are rendered by how important they are to the children who are experiencing them, because childhood is important, even if those things are not important in the kind of grand scheme of the adult lives that the rest of us live. And it's about how humans are bad. War is bad, machines are bad, technology is bad. These are his kind of general beliefs, I think, as a person. But what's fascinating about Ponyo is it softens all of those perspectives around the edges in a way that, for me, is what is true. And that's what I think makes it such a powerful story. So here are some of the themes explicitly in this film. So number one, as I said earlier, this is a film that I think for Miyazaki is really first and foremost about bad fathers, right? You have two kids who are both pretty fucked up, one of whom, because her father is like a totally overbearing weirdo who's like, you know, we don't really think about it in this way, right? But Fujimoto is a fanatic. You know, like imagine what it would feel like to be raised by somebody like that. And yes, to your earlier comment, he's objectively correct. His fanaticism is correct. Humans are bad. You know, like if you take this film, you know, at its word and recognize the world of wildlife and animals and the undersea world as just as rich and vibrant and important as the human world, then like, yeah, the humans are obviously bad. They're destroying it, you know, and for what? For a bunch of shit that doesn't need to happen. You can have like a quiet, pastoral sort of rural life and live just fine without any of this shit. Like none of it actually matters, you know? But instead of focusing on the virtue of the kind of environmentalist, like almost eco-fascist or eco-terrorist perspective, like some of his other films do, we instead focus on it through the lens of his child, who just finds it very alienating how much of a fanatic he is, and the way that his fanaticism about the way that he sees the world and his role in the world kind of spills over into the overbearing way that he parents. And then on the other hand, we have Sosuke, who's got a dad who's like, you know, like a weirdo workaholic who, you know, has got his wife left, to your point, totally bricked up, you know, taking care of their son on this cliff, and you know, presumably doing her best as a mother, but she's not doing a very good job, and it's because she's really overworked. You know, that's way too much for one person to have to do. And could he really possibly need to work this much? They're both working, and their life looks really inexpensive. You know, so I think that we're supposed to understand that it really doesn't make sense that he's working as hard as he is, and you know, much in the same way that I would imagine that Miyazaki must have reflected on decisions that he made about how much to prioritize spending time with and raising his children over his creative pursuits as he looked back on his life approaching what he thought would be retirement. He thought he was about to retire when he made this film. You know, I'm sure he was reflecting and thinking like, oh, I'm not really sure. I mean, like I said, I wish he had. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't think he needed to make any more movies after this one. I think this would have been an extremely fitting close to his career as like an overall kind of reflection on the subject matter that he'd explored throughout his creative work. Also, 10's a nice even number. You know,
sure.
Stop at 10.
The Tarantino method.
Yep. So it's about that. And then, of course, it's also about motherhood. And motherhood is a much more common theme for Miyazaki to explore in his films. A lot of Miyazaki's films are about strong mothers, you know, their presence or their absence. And Miyazaki, he depicts Lisa, I think truthfully, right, to my earlier comment, she's not a great mother. She does a lot of stuff wrong. She makes a lot of really bad choices, but he humanizes her in a way that he doesn't necessarily humanize the father characters. And he kind of rounds up for her in a way that expresses, I think, what I describe as like his latent misandry, right? I mean, most of his films are about strong female protagonists. Yeah. He's not really interested in men's perspectives. You know, to kind of delve a little bit into psychoanalysis, he obviously had a really strained relationship with his father and wasn't really interested in men in the way that he was interested in women as a storyteller. It's about childhood, right? It's lonely and isolating to be a child, but there's also a lot of adventure and wonderment to being a child. And Sosuke is so lonely. He is expected in the context of his life socially to communicate really primarily with adults, with his mother, with his father, with the old ladies at the senior center. He doesn't really seem to connect very well with his peers at school. And so when he finally meets somebody, Ponyo, who he feels like he can really connect with, that kind of the way that light kind of shines away his abject loneliness is like revelatory and freeing for him in a way that's really powerful in the way that it's depicted. It's about the importance of community, right? It kind of fetishizes that. This is a small town. Everybody looks out for each other.
Fucking dying fishing town. The average age is 75.
It depicts a lot about familial self-sufficiency, right? You've got the self-sufficient community, the self-sufficient family underneath. Sosuke's family's isolated on the mountain, but they have the pump, they have the generator, they can kind of do things all on their own. Lisa's a very independent, very self-sufficient person. And then I think the two most important themes, and I think this is ultimately Miyazaki's thesis at kind of the end of this story and the end of these 10 films that he made about these topics, are about love as a galvanizing force for unification and about aging and the tools that we have available to us to slow its corrosive influence on our character. So throughout the film, we kind of see the characters of Toki and Yoshi as mirror images of one another. You know, Yoshi is very warm. She's always trying to connect with Sosuke and seems to understand, right? This is like the thing that like slows the corrosion that age has on our character as people. It's like being around children, right? Like the older you get, the less in touch you are with the wonderment and magic of childhood. You're getting further away from that time in your life when you could just be happy because of how exciting everything was, and staying in touch with childhood, staying in touch with children is the thing that, allows you to stay in touch with those parts of yourself. And so at the end, we see Toki. She finally gets up and cares about something when she thinks she has to protect Sosuke from Fujimoto, and she like gets up out of her wheelchair. It's the first time we ever see her move and like rushes to try to catch him. And then at the end, when the world is saved and Grandma Mare says that Sosuke's love for Ponyo has ended the apocalypse, it's Toki who is the only one who's like staring slack-jawed at them, and she's the one who runs forward and embraces him, because really engaging with this childlike wonderment and this like pure love that these children feel for each other has cured her of being such a miserable, curmudgeonly old monster. She's a terrible lady for the entire film. And additionally, we see in the kind of category of love as a galvanizing force for unification, this dichotomy between childlike love and adult love. We see Lisa and Koichi. They never connect. Their relationship is characterized by essentially her disappointment in him and his inability to connect with her in the way that she wants him to, in the way they need to have an effective relationship. We see Grandma Mare and Fujimoto's relationship, which is one of like a really intense power imbalance where like one of them is like a god, and the other one is this like little David Bowie weirdo who's like really tough and like big hot shit, except for when she's around, and he's made to feel so small by her. But on the other hand, Ponyo and Sosuke's love is characterized as totally pure and essentially evocative only of like magic and wonderment. And kind of these two things together are what sketch Miyazaki's ultimate thesis, right? Which I think is like ultimately cannot be operationalized, but neither can any of the fanaticism, right? His point ultimately at the end of this film, and it's why I think it's such a fitting coda to his filmography, is that like we can't solve these problems, right? Humanity is never going to stop destroying the environment. Humanity is never going to stop waging war on each other and killing each other for reasons that are of dubious importance objectively. But the thing that can stem the tide of this like just sort of entropic regression to violence and destruction, because the entropic state of the world is dysfunction, right? Like it takes constant effort to keep these systems together, to keep people working together, to keep people getting along, to keep people just functioning in a relatively cohesive society, is love and the recognition of virtue and purity in other people, even when they are different from each other. And so for me, I don't know. I understand, because I think that, we make our jokes, right, about my political moderation. But, at the end of the day, I am a moderate, right, politically. And it's because where I have reached in my life is just a recognition that we can never silence the views of people who we disagree with. And there's no way for any one side to get what they want. And so the thing that we should be trying to achieve is minimizing the damage and people getting along and seeing the humanity in each other, right? There's like a reason why, there's a reason why the biggest racists live in like relatively homogenous rural places where there are no people of color. It's because the mere act, unless you're like a total freakish, like embodiment of hate, the mere act of being around people who are different from the people you're used to being around makes you hate those type of people less. And so it makes you less bigoted to like see the humanity in the types of people against whom you're bigoted. And so, like, I don't know, love is the answer, like that's his conclusion at the end of this whole exploration of all these films. And like, I think that it is a recognition that is totally impossible to operationalize in a productive way. And also like the closest you can come to being correct about how to engage in the world. So like,
yeah,
I don't know. I think he should have stopped after this, honestly.
Yeah, sure. I mean, listen, I think maybe he should have stopped with Howl's Moving Castle, but you made such an impassioned defense of this film that, I mean, I still give it 4 stars, but I thought it was really nice, everything you just said.
I think I'm a relatively, urbane and insightful literary commentator. So yeah, I mean, I fucking love this movie. I think it's incredible. It's one of my 10 favorite films of all time. I give it 5 stars, but it's like actually like a 6.5 or a 7. If we extend my 5.5 that I gave to Mean Streets a few months ago when I saw that for the first time. And I love absolutely everything about it. But I agree with the comments that you made that if we take it as a work of kind of aesthetic art on its own, the visuals and the score are what really elevate it. I mean, Joe Hisaishi is one of the greatest composers of modern classical music, and this is his finest work. I mean, this is the best score he's ever composed. It carries the film. I love it. 5 stars.
Great.
Do you have anything that you'd like to recommend in addition to Ponyo?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do have a recommendation this week in addition to Ponyo. Damn it! So if you're looking for a Japanese animated vibes film from the late 2000s and your age is in the double digits, might I recommend the 2009 film Red Line, produced by Madhouse. Are you familiar with this film at all? I'm guessing no.
Not at all.
It's a bit of a deep cut, and I'm pretty excited to recommend it. I watched it when it came out, probably in 2009 or 2010, so it's been a long time.
Is this one word or 2 words?
It's 1 word. And it's a super cool sci-fi action racing anime, notable for having a production that took 7 years and had over 100,000 hand-drawn frames. So it is a visually stunning film, kind of like a mix between Mad Max and Speed Racer. The premise is that in the distant future, there are these daredevil racers from across the galaxy that compete in this illegal, no-holds-barred red line race that's held on a hostile planet with corrupt governments and just chaos lurking at every turn. So it is just a very visually spectacular film, one of just the coolest looking hand-drawn animated films I've ever seen. And, I just think as a counterpoint to Ponyo, if Ponyo is this, gentle, childlike watercolor kind of dream, then Redline is just this neon-drenched, fast-paced, bombastic punch to the face. It is not a kid's film. This is for adults. So yeah, I just think it's a really neat film that I'm excited to rewatch in the near future. That is the 2009 Japanese animated film Redline. What about you, Mike? Any recommendations this week?
Yeah, and that's a great recommendation. For one thing, I'd never heard of that film, and I was very excited to slam that plus watch list button on Letterboxd just now as I searched for it. So really excited to watch that. Thanks for making what sounds like a great recommendation. I would like to recommend on the other end of things the 1984 Hayao Miyazaki film Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind.
Oh,
you ever seen that one, Mike?
No, I haven't seen this one.
Oh, it's really great. Yeah. I don't want to say too much about it. So instead of an apocalyptic story, this is a post-apocalyptic story. It takes place, I believe, 1,000 years after an apocalyptic scenario. And it's just about this lady, Nausicaa, who is a pacifist kind of member of this thinly sketched royal family that lives in the titular Valley of the Wind, and it's just about an adventure that she goes on, and it I think it has much different things to say than Ponyo about these exact same things thematically that this film is about.
Interesting.
And I think it's very interesting as a kind of counterpoint to Ponyo from like the beginning of his career, whereas this is from the end, and it has what I think is Joe Hisashi's second strongest score. It's a real masterpiece. There's a lot of similarly like beautiful, propulsive orchestral pieces in this film that are they're classical pieces that I often go back to in the kind of modern classical canon. It's a really special film, and I would strongly recommend that you check it out if you like Miyazaki and you've never seen it.
It's on the watch list.
You're gonna love it. I think you'll probably like it better than this.
Ooh.
It's much more up your alley.
Oh, I love a good post-apocalyptic story.
It's got some really cool visuals. It's really, really cool.
I'm excited.
What do we got next, Mike?
So I'm going to retake control of this here podcast. We have 3 letters from great citizens of De Niro Nation, starting with a letter from a friend of the pod, wife of the pod, Caroline, responding to our Stanley and Iris episode in which I made her the subject of both my shout out and call out. Caroline writes, she wrote a lot. Caroline writes, "Dear dudes, in the Stanley and Iris episode, I was brazenly accused of shirking my duties as literary adaptations consultant by not guesting, even though I did read the book ahead of time. The reason I passed on this episode was because the term based on is a mischaracterization of Stanley and Iris's relationship to Pat Barker's 1982 novel, Union Street. A more accurate description would be inspired by a few names and details from a random book that the writers casually thumbed through while browsing their local bookstore. The book is a series of vignettes, each concerning a woman who lives on the eponymous Union Street in northeast England in the 1970s. It's mostly about how much it sucks to be poor. No one is ever able to escape the cycle of poverty, abuse, neglect, and/or exploitation, and the whole book is one big bummer. There are also like 12 other major characters who don't have movie corollaries, so a lot of my contributions would have been, well, that wasn't in the book, but here's a different anecdote about a book character who has something way worse happen to them. For instance, the character on whom Movie Iris is based only has one partner in the book, and he is both illiterate and dies of cancer. I figured that the citizens of our great De Niro Nation would love an episode riffing off all the silly things that happen in the movie. I was one of them, but would not feel the same way about an episode where the movie's silly nonsense keeps getting interrupted by the book's bleak portrayals of DIY abortions, aging sex workers, and every variety of child abuse. All that said, I thought it was a compelling and well-written book and would recommend it to anyone who likes Call the Midwife, either the BBC series or the memoirs by Jennifer Worth. The movie was more When Harry Met Sally, except Harry can't read and neither of them can afford to pay rent. Epistolally yours, not a Stanley and Iris stan. P.S. Thanks for the shout-out. See? It pays to listen to Caroline's media recommendations. Follow @BadCree on Letterboxd, listeners." Mike, do you have any response to Caroline's letter?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing I'd like to say is, did you pause the episode and write this letter as soon as Mike called you out without listening to the rest of it? Because I'm pretty sure I literally said everything you said in the letter in the episode. Didn't I?
Yeah.
You remember that, Mike?
Yeah, I do remember that quite well.
Like, I think not in as much detail because I didn't read the book, but I actually think like structurally the stuff listeners are going to take away from the letter read that Mike just did. I think I said all of that in the episode. So I think it's an interesting call out considering that in the podcast, we gave you credit for all of these thoughts and justifications. The second thing is, just Caroline, thanks for writing into the podcast. And, it's nice to hear you do this kind of writing that's meant to be sort of glib and funny. You're a very talented writer, and we're lucky to have you in our lives and on this podcast.
Completely agree. Caroline, my response to you, because you are our literary adaptations consultant and are just so well read, is a quote that maybe you'll recognize. Brevity is the soul of wit. And with that, we're moving on to a letter from friend of the pod, Chase, responding to our Killers of the Flower Moon episode. Chase
beautiful
writes,
episode.
Oh, beautiful episode. A beautiful movie.
Long movie.
Real long movie. Chase writes,
one of the longest movies I've ever seen. That's actually true, probably. It's probably like one of the 20 longest movies I've ever seen. It's so long.
Well, Chase writes, "Greetings, Mike, and the De Niro Nation once again. Writing in for this episode because while the film might be either too long, too dour, or too decompressed for some viewers to take in, I'm in that group of cinephiles that absolutely loves Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. In fact, I would personally put it in my top 10 of films directed by Scorsese. While I've only managed to see 3 of Scorsese's films in the theater upon their initial release, those being Hugo and Silence, Killers of the Flower Moon feels like the very late-era Scorsese masterpiece that my generation really got to savor, more so than The Irishman, a film that I soft-like but don't outright love. I think part of why I was so receptive to the film in particular, with its depiction of white capitalism and the all too unfortunately timely issues of genocide inflicted upon indigenous peoples for profit and territorial control, was because of how similarly the themes resonated with me on a subconscious level. Being not only part Native American, but also Native Hawaiian, and living in an indigenous territory that has also experienced a genocide of sorts in the past, the widespread diseases from American missionaries and European navigators that claimed many Native lives, leading up to the U.S. military overthrowing the Native Hawaiian Kingdom in 1893, and the exploitation of plantation and labor by colonial settlers that gradually pushed the Hawaiians off their own land, the film really impacted me on a personal level, so much that I went and saw it 3 times in the theater. I felt like Scorsese really made this film for people like me, even though it dealt with the Osage in the 1920s Oklahoma and their privations and struggle for seeking justice and survival in question. Also, Paul Thomas Anderson's uncredited rewrites and contributions to the script really helped lend a Greek tragedy element to the film, with Molly's doomed marriage to Ernst Burkhart being the emotional core of the film, which gave it a humanity it otherwise might have lacked in the previous drafts Eric Roth and Martin Scorsese were conceiving, with the film being more of a crime investigation procedural type of drama. And that ending! I get goosebumps thinking about that idiosyncratic and almost darkly comedic wraparound summation of the story's characters via the impartiality of an antiquated radio drama staging before Scorsese himself steps in to tell what happened to Molly and the remainder of her life. The Ask Us Anything prompt question I'll put in this fan letter is, what's your favorite movie ending? It could be from a recent film, a film you've watched all your life, or an ending that completely changed the entire film in question leading up to it and made it memorable. As for my favorite ending of all time, I'd probably throw in a few honorable mentions. Andrei Tarkovsky always knew how to conclude his films in the most cerebral way imaginable. But when it comes to a single ending completely making me forget I even watched a film and witnessed the power of life unfold before my eyes, Mizoguchi Kenji's Sancho the Bailiff is nothing short of devastatingly moving. Thank you for the letter, Chase. Fantastic as always. Mike, does anything come to mind in response to this letter or Chase's question?
First, incredible letter, Chase. Thank you so much for a passionate defense of Killers of the Flower Moon. I don't really have a response to your defense other than that I think your sort of perspective bona fides as you've presented them, right? I think act as a good counterpoint to mine and Mike's perspective on the film. And I kind of almost feel like we have to give them the benefit of the doubt, right? Like I'm not watching the film from the perspective of someone who's, from a tradition, part of a community that's experienced that kind of, othering, I guess, is a very soft way to put it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, how do you respond to that, Mike? Like, how do you respond to his counterpoints about the film?
I'm not going to rebut his personal, deeply held feelings about, it's a good piece of art. And I think that's beautiful. That's just one of the things that's so attractive about art in general. Is just the ways in which we interpret it personally. I love, just how well said Chase's defense of the film was. It got me to rethink the film a little bit, and it's going to stay with me for the next time that I inevitably watch the film. So, I'm not increasing my rating. Maybe I will the next time I watch it. Who knows?
And Chase, you too are an excellent writer, and we're lucky to have you write into the podcast. I enjoy your reviews on Letterboxd, and grateful to have got that level of thought and contribution in a letter to the pod. This is an incredibly difficult question to answer with 10 seconds of preparation. Like, I did not read this letter before I listened to Mike read it just now. So I'm really struggling to answer this question. I might come back in a subsequent episode, I guess, after thinking about this and give my actual answer. But here are some examples of some film endings as I look at my 5-star Letterboxd ratings that I've found extremely compelling. Here is one. This is an actual contender for my actual favorite film ending ever, because it made me go vegan for a year and a half when I saw it. So a film ending that I really love is the conclusion to I want to get the year right, 2017 Bong Joon-ho film Okja. Mike, you ever seen this film?
No, I never saw it. It's about like the cow or the pig or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's about the pig. Yeah. At the end of the film, you just see the slaughterhouse, essentially, after the film spends its entire runtime humanizing the pig, which is essentially his point in the film. And oh yeah, I bawled. It's like the hardest a movie's ever made me cry, and then I didn't eat meat for a year and a half. Yeah. It's a really great movie. So that's definitely a contender for me. I really, really love that film. I love that film much more than I love Parasite as far as his films go. Although I do really love him as a director. I think he's incredible. I also really love the ending of the end of Evangelion. Shinji and Asuka on the beach is huge for me. That's definitely one that I think about often.
I actually considered making that my recommendation this week.
Yeah, that's an incredible film. Total masterpiece. Finally, I don't want to say what it is about the ending that I love, because I know that when you do watch this film, Mike, you're going to love it. And I don't want to give away the ending because it's an incredible twist ending. But Chase, since you're a Scorsese fan, I'm sure you've seen this. And if you haven't, you really should watch it. I recommended it in an episode that I don't know has actually come out yet. But it's the early 90s Scorsese film, The Age of Innocence, starring Daniel Day-Lewis. It has an almost unbelievably emotionally impactful twist ending, which you wouldn't really think that a film like that possibly could, considering that it's like a weirdo like romance about Gilded Age aristocrats. But as far as Scorsese endings go, that's one that I find really compelling. And to your comment, I really love the ending of Killers of the Flower Moon. I think it works really, really well. So I agree about the ending of that film. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I did read this letter, and I still had difficulty with it because I feel like all of my answers would be the typical, film bro, American cinephile answers, like There Will Be Blood, things like that, No Country for Old Men. I think the director who makes my favorite endings overall is Christopher Nolan. I think he understands in a way that almost every other filmmaker does not, how to build momentum and have it all pay off during the final act of a film. I think no one does it quite like him. I'm thinking specifically about The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. I mean, The Dark Knight has got to be the one for me. Commissioner, Batman, running from the police, Commissioner Gordon telling his son about why he has to run, and that final shot of him, riding up the highway entrance ramp on the Batpod into the lights, and then there's just boom, The Dark Knight. I mean, holy shit, it doesn't get any better than that.
Does that ending make you cry?
I think it did the first time. I think it might be in my list on Letterboxd.
Yeah, it makes me cry every time. Like, I'm kind of
feeling it right now.
The Commissioner Gordon monologue is it is tremendously compelling. As I say,
and I am inclined to agree with you. That's two on bingo.
I find that a very emotional ending. Yeah. I love that one. Yep.
How I feel at the end of the film, I think goes a long way in influencing my overall rating and feelings about the film. So yeah, those are just a couple that stand out to me, but we could talk about movie endings or 5-star films more another time.
Agreed. I will think about this some more, and if I have more to add, I will add it in a future episode. Thanks for a great letter, Chase. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chase. Our final letter.
Wait. I'm sorry. I missed my one thing that I wanted to say. Also, because we happen to be recording this episode so close to when you wrote the previous letter and when you wrote this one, I just want to say that in the last letter you wrote a few weeks ago, you recommended the Perfect Days film, and I watched that recently, just a few days ago, and I really loved it. So thanks so much for a great recommendation. I really found it very affecting, and I'm hoping Mike will watch it soon.
It's on my list, and I will watch it at some point. And our final letter of the episode comes from friend of the pod, Philip, a.k.a. Lips. Philip writes, Robert De Niro has a great head of hair. How much time do you guys spend on your hair, and what products do you use? I thought this was a great kind of way to end the episode.
Question. Yeah, and it's a fun question to ask right now because just 3 or 4 days ago, I changed my hair care routine.
Tell us all about it. And remember, I'm citizens of De Niro Nation. You can see pictures of us on our Instagram page. That's Instagram.com/OurHeroDeNiro.
Yep. So I'm growing my hair out right now. And historically, I have worn my hair. What's it called? It's called like an Ivy League cut, isn't it? Like an Ivy League crew cut. It's the same hairstyle you have. Like I had the same hairstyle that you have right now. Kind of high and tight on the sides, a little longer on the top, not quite a pompadour, but like definitely longer than the other hair. And I kind of combed it over with a hard part on my left side of my head. And when I wore it like that, I put like kind of like a matte mousse in it to do it. And I didn't and still don't in my new way spend very much time taking care of my hair. It takes me like 5 minutes in the morning to do the thing that I described. I'm growing my hair out. I've been growing it since the end of June. And just in the past few weeks, the mousse stopped working. And so I switched to a hairspray. And so I've recently switched to just kind of brushing my hair back while I blow dry it after getting out of the shower and spraying some hairspray in it, which I think looks quite nice. And that takes me between 5 and 10 minutes. So that's my hair care routine. And I think I have incredible hair, and it really doesn't take me very long to make it look this good.
Yeah, I think.
What about you, Mike?
I think on this, your 38th birthday, and me in my 36th year on this earth, we should really just take a moment to be thankful that we have beautiful, thick heads of hair.
Such good hair. Yeah. Both of us have all of our hair very thick, very healthy. Mine's graying, but like it still looks really healthy and really nice. Yep.
Yeah, I actually, people are surprised when I tell them this. Sometimes they actually want to run their hand through my hair. I don't use any product in my hair. It's just
including shampoo, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of jumping the gun there. I was going to get into that in a moment. But
I'm
yes,
sorry.
That's the other thing I was going to say is that I stopped. I'm one of those people. I'm one of those no-poo
I just feel
people.
like narratively, I would have said it right then.
Yeah,
like
I don't know. You could have just let me.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
fine. It's fine. It's fine. But yes, I'm one of those no-poo people. I don't remember why exactly. I do remember back in, I think, 2010 or 2011, summertime, July, there was a heat wave here in Rochester, and I had like a long, messy kind of mop top kind of hair.
God, I remember that hair. That
Yes.
was a crazy look.
A very
Yeah.
funny look. And I went and I just got it cut. I was so sick of the hair in my face. This is when it was, going kind of over my forehead, my eyes, and kind of that scenester kind of style. And ever since then, I've had, with the exception of last year when I grew my hair out, with the exception of that, my hair has been some variation of that shorter style with the fade on the sides, kind of high and tight. And I stopped using shampoo around the same time. And at least for me and my hair, I don't know. The first 3 weeks were rough, and it's been totally fine ever since. People think I have product in it. It's just it's just naturally that great. I'll tell you, it's one of those things. I guess for some people, I think some people do have more oily hair or whatever, and they style their hair in a way that requires product and shampoo and conditioner. But I don't know, for the way that I'm doing it, I don't need any of that stuff. It just kind of does this on its own, and I'm blessed to have it.
Yeah, I mean, I've never stopped washing my hair, so I can't say with certainty what would happen if I did, but I have extremely oily hair, and also my hair's natural position is to fall down flat in my face, whereas I think your hair's natural position is to kind of flow to the side and to the back.
Well, I do, yeah. The entirety of my routine is that I blow dry and comb my hair. That's it.
Yeah, mine doesn't do that. If I just blow dry and comb my hair without any product, it falls in my face within a half an hour. Like as soon as any sweat gets into my hair, it just tears it apart. Yep.
Yeah. So citizens, if you're out there and you're considering making the switch, you just have to commit to a month without the shampoo.
Yep.
See if
Can't
it works
hurt.
for you. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
It's just one of those things that, like, for me at least now, it just feels like such a scam. It's like your hair is clean. Just fucking rinse it when you're in the shower. That's the one part of my body that I don't bother covering with soap, unlike you, who just kind of does the classic man thing of, don't you just you rub a bar of soap on your fucking shoulders and let the water and gravity do its thing? Isn't that your whole shtick?
Yeah, that's what I do most days,
Yeah.
and then once every 2 weeks, I do
The deep clean.
like a full wash with a loofah for a few minutes.
Caroline gets the power
But yeah,
washer
usually
out.
I do. I just get a little soap in my body. Like it's fine. I'm clean.
Yeah, I'll take your word for it, man. I'm not the one who has to sleep next to you at night. Caroline, right into the pod.
I think I'm very clean, and I think I smell really nice.
Yeah,
I don't
you
know.
smell nice. You smell nice.
Yeah.
What are you using for fragrance these days? Anything?
It's some sort of what's that French perfume maker that I can never remember how to pronounce?
I don't know. What?
YSL.
Oh, okay.
How do you pronounce that?
Isn't it like Yves Saint Laurent or something?
Maybe. Yeah, it's some YSL. I can't remember the specific fragrance. If I remember, I will put it in the show notes.
Oh, sure.
And I think I'm on my third bottle, so I've been using this fragrance for a few years now, and I really love it. It's very subtle and understated and really classy. I think it's a really, really nice, like, white collar professional middle-aged man fragrance for like all 4 seasons. I wear it year round. What about you, Mike? What do you wear for a fragrance?
Ombre Leather by Tom Ford. I love it. It's such a great woodsy, kind of leathery fall and wintertime scent, and it's mild enough to where I think it can be worn year round. And I've never heard a bad thing about it.
Yep, one of your favorite fragrance designers as well as one of your favorite filmmakers.
Man, Tom Ford doesn't miss. What can I say?
He certainly doesn't. Yep. And with that, I would like to thank a lot of people for getting to have this experience today. I would like to thank you, Mike, for this wonderful birthday gift of letting me do this episode and for being my podcast host
my
week
pleasure.
in and week out. Yep. I would like
Host,
to
producer, editor.
Yep. Sure. Yeah. Don't pat yourself on the back too much and lengthen my outro more than I already struggled to hedge against. I'd like to thank you, citizens of De Niro Nation, for joining us week in and week out. And I would like to thank my lovely wife, Caroline, friend of the pod, wife of the pod, aka Bad Cree, for
AKA
creating
Liz
our
Lemon.
podcast. AKA Liz Lemon for creating our,
Yes, thank you,
our beautiful
Caroline.
podcast art. Yep. I would like to invite you to follow Mike and I on Letterboxd. He is Mike Back At You, and I am Mikethefab. And follow the podcast on social media platforms. I think we're really on all of them, right? But especially on Instagram, which is where we post pretty frequently. The handle is Our Hero De Niro. And write us about literally anything at ourherodeniro@gmail.com. Please subscribe and rate us on your podcast platform of choice. 5 stars only. And we really, really hope you will join us next week as we discuss and recap Great Expectations, starring Robert De Niro.
I'll be there.
Oh, you and me both, sister. Thanks for being here, everybody.